Lately, most movies have been such utter garbage that when a slightly competent film comes along, it can seem like God's gift to cinema by comparison. And such is the case with Prey, which is the fifth entry into the Predator franchise and follows a young Comanche girl named Naru in 18th century North America who's determined to be a great hunter. But when an alien predator endangers her people, she sets out to kill it and prove herself worthy. The critics have been absolutely gushing over this movie, and it's a little embarrassing. This is not the action horror masterpiece they're making it out to be. Prey could best be described as moderately enjoyable. It's not necessarily a bad movie, but don't be fooled. It's nowhere near as good as the original Predator film, and I wouldn't even put it in the top 3 of the franchise. It also has a lot of issues that I'll get into later in the video. But first, allow me to give credit where it's due and touch on some of the highlights of the movie. One of the best aspects of the film is the cinematography. It was a breath of fresh air to see them utilize mostly natural locations instead of a soundstage, and the camera work brings it all to life in a beautiful way that feels authentic. There are gorgeous shots of the Great Plains, dense woods, and rugged mountains, which convey the respect and awe the Native American people had for the land. Another highlight was the way the Native American people were portrayed here. Now, I'm admittedly ignorant to most of the history of that culture, but at least to me, the cast all looked like they belonged in this period of time, and the costumes and set design added to the realism as well. And lastly, the Predator himself was a menacing and brutal enemy that had no problems cutting people's limbs off or slicing open a grizzly bear and literally bathing in its blood. Yeah, it's freaking nuts. Plus, they actually had an actor in practical makeup and a costume which made the Predator feel believable. But with a few things I liked about the film out of the way, now we have to talk about the issues I had, because there are many. First is the main character Naru and the way the writers portrayed her. She's exactly what I feared she would be. She comes across like a smug and arrogant wannabe man the entire movie. Her performance was more wooden than Hayden Christensen playing Pinocchio. She says, "I want to hunt because you all think I can't." And I'm thinking, who's stopping her from hunting? She has a bow and arrows, a tomahawk, and decent tracking skills. Maybe everyone thinks you can't hunt because, you've proven that you're just not good at it. Ever consider that? Now, I'm all for protagonists being shown to have weaknesses, as it makes for good character development so that by the end of the story they can overcome their shortcomings at the right moment and save the day. And to be fair, at the end of the film, she does prove that she can hunt and kill a predator, but it feels completely unearned. There's no setup for why she was able to kill the predator, other than the fact that the plot needed her to, because she's the main character. And did I hint at the fact that she's strong and female? Because the film sure did. Naru does some utterly ridiculous things in the movie that make zero sense. In one scene, she's out in the woods and sees a deer maybe 30 yards away that somehow hasn't spotted her already. She grabs her tomahawk, stands up, and throws it at the deer. I repeat, she throws her tomahawk at a deer. First, when you see an animal you're about to try and kill and it hasn't spotted you yet, the absolute last thing you want to do is stand up so that it can get spooked and run the heck away. Secondly, if you know anything about deer, or have actually hunted deer like I have, you'll know that they are incredibly skittish animals with really good hearing. Why on earth would you risk throwing an axe at one? It would hear you as soon as the axe left your hand, and again, run the heck away. Even if you did hit it, it would more than likely just wound the animal rather than deliver a potentially lethal blow. But to top it all off, after she completely misses, she chases after the deer as if she genuinely expects to catch up to it. Have the writers never seen a deer in the wild before? You're not catching a deer. And if that all wasn't bad enough, Naru throws her tomahawk around like she's female John Wick, and it's so obviously fake. You can tell it's done with CGI. It destroys any sense of realism that they were going for. And speaking of destroying a sense of realism, in one scene Naru kills 4 grown men by herself with her borderline magical tomahawk. And although the choreography is fun to watch, I don't buy for a minute that this little 90-pound girl could accomplish this. If it was one grown man with the force multiplier of a tomahawk on her side, okay, I could maybe get behind that. But 4? No. Just no. It's not happening. I can only suspend my disbelief so far when the movie is trying to portray her as just a regular Comanche girl. If she's just a normal girl, she's simply not winning that fight. The only way she could win is if she was some mythical warrior with superhuman powers. but then the movie wouldn't make any sense because that's obviously not what they're going for. But worst of all, this movie of course contains a feminist message that's done with all the subtlety of a swift kick to the groin. The predator in this movie apparently doesn't find Naru to be a threat, despite finding all the men to be threats, even though Naru is the only one who can apparently kill 4 grown men single-handedly. But I guess the predator is a misogynist or something. So, of course, Naru has to destroy this symbol of toxic masculinity and the patriarchy, and prove that she is a force to be reckoned with. And she's obviously the only one in the whole tribe who's got the wits to do it. Thank God all those pesky men got killed off. They were just holding her back anyway. So look, all jokes aside, I didn't hate this movie. It's much better than I thought it was going to be, and there were some really fun moments throughout. Plus, it recaptured the spirit of the first movie, which I appreciated. But it leaves so much to be desired. Prey isn't anything close to the masterpiece the critics are making it out to be. The fact that this has a 93% fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes is baffling. Is a movie just being moderately entertaining the new gold standard for films? Have we sunk this low? Whatever. At least the dog was cool.